my mom wanted to put me in because I would just be like jumping on her bed, doing flips. Like I have videos of me like when I'm literally like 3.5 years old doing full flips on her bed, you know, like all day long, climbing stuff, you know, climbing on top of the fridge, jumping down the stairs, just, you know, just being nuts all around the house. And she's like, okay, this kid's going in gymnastics because I don't want to buy like, you know, a new mattress every 3 months or something. Hello, everyone. My name is Hugh Smith, former Canadian National Team Gymnast and former Canadian champion, and you are watching Undress the Jersey.
Beautiful. All right, Hugh. Thank you so much for coming on. We're officially live here. And
all right.
The way that I like to start off these episodes is just kind of give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. Give us a quick background, where you're from, where you grew up, what you do, Just let's get into it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm Hugh Smith, a long-time Canadian member of the Canadian National Gymnastics team, and now I currently am coaching. I got into coaching. I was currently coaching with Cirque Du Soleil, with their newest show that we were creating. Unfortunately, that came to a pause with COVID. But I'm a former Canadian champion, and I am currently living here in Nova Scotia after being away, for several years. And anything.
Whereabouts in Nova Scotia? Whereabouts in Nova Scotia are you from?
I'm from Lower Sackville, Tristan, and that's where I started competing when I was young. But then I moved to Dartmouth and have lived over in Dartmouth until a few years ago. And then I moved to the States, and I was coaching there. I was coaching gymnastics there, and then I recently just accepted a job with Cirque the last year. And so I was in Montreal coaching, coaching there.
That's funny because just having our interaction yesterday, talking about setting this up. When I'm reaching out to these athletes, I have absolutely no idea, like to a certain extent, like from what I can draw from your Instagram and that kind of stuff. But just to find out that you're from Lower Sackville, I'm a churro boy myself, born and raised.
Okay.
And and have been living in Halifax for probably the good part of 8 or 9 years now.
Okay.
But just recently, at the end of August, I moved to Toronto, where I currently am.
Okay.
So my brother's been living here for probably 4 or 5 years. Recently just bought a house, and he gives me a call one day and he said, hey, like, would you be interested in renting the apartment from me? Because there's an extra apartment in the house.
Right.
And me, like, at that time, I was just in Halifax. I was in Bedford, actually, because of the coronavirus, just quarantining. I had just returned from London, England, where I was living, bartending.
Really?
Kind of after that stage after you graduate. And I said, I need to get the hell out of here. One-way ticket. Booked a one-way ticket, and that was a great experience. But I had to come home because of the virus.
Anyway, sure. Well, so that you did that. That's cool.
It was incredible. I'm someone who, I guess to give you a little bit of backstory on me, growing up in Truro, I played basketball my entire life. At 13 years old, unfortunately, my mother passed away. But a few months after that, I found myself at boarding school down in Vermont. Boarding school, prep school. I was playing basketball there. So that was great. Ended up coming back home for university. Went to Saint FX in Antigonish. And there was just something that I felt that was missing from my experience at Saint FX, because that was home for me. Like my dad played basketball for Saint FX. I grew up there every summer. I was in that gym. So as a student athlete there, I felt kind of way too familiar with my surroundings. So as soon as I graduated, I was like, I need to get uncomfortable like I was when I was
Yeah.
13, book that one-way ticket. But I'm sure, as you know, things don't always go as planned. And if you asked me 4 months ago if I'd ever moved to Toronto, I would look at you and say, "Are you crazy? I have no idea."
Yeah.
Whereabouts in the States were you coaching gymnastics?
So I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and that's where all my family live, with the exception of my dad, who's in Glace Bay, and his family. But all my siblings and my mom and everyone, they live there. And I was like you. I was like, I am never moving to the States. You know, like I love Nova Scotia. I grew up here, like, you know, I loved it here. And I would go there and visit, and they'd be like, you know, when are you coming? When are you gonna move here? And you know, and I just never thought I would live in the States or even like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, after living there a few years and just being with family and stuff, I actually really started to really love it there. And I mean, Utah is just it's an amazing place. You know, anyone who likes anything outdoors, it's like an outdoor paradise. You know, you can do it. There's just endless things to do there. So yeah, we really enjoyed it. And then just some circumstances changed a little bit with my family, and so it kind of forced me to come back to Canada, and that's when I took a job with Cirque Du Soleil, which was definitely a fun new kind of challenge, you know, because I had been coaching gymnastics for so long, and in the gymnastics world, it's just like, you know, everyone in the gymnastics coaching, like everyone is just a gymnastics coach, you know, but in the Cirque world, there's so many people from different backgrounds, you know, from all around the world. And so everyone coming together, it really is a special thing to be a part of.
Yeah, let's dive into that, because I think, like, as the average Joe, when it comes to like knowing about gymnastics, I think my knowledge stops at the Olympics. But with that being said, when I hear Cirque du Soleil, I think everyone would agree or recognize that name, whether we see like clips of it online, or if you've ever actually been to a show, you know that Cirque du Soleil is this world-renowned entertainment. I actually, probably 2 years ago now, my brother and I were in Las Vegas, and we had the opportunity to go to a Cirque show. I've never been I wouldn't be able to tell you the name of it. It was something to do with love, or like a dream. It was a water-based show.
Okay, was it I mean, Love is a show.
It might have been a more.
It's a Beatles show, Love. There's also La Rev. I don't know if it was
yes,
a
dream. Yes,
okay,
it was La Rev, and I've never been so blown away and just mystified, like, just to see like what some of these people can do while telling a story. Like, for you, for someone who's inside that world on a direct level, tell us about the experience or the things that go on, like preparing for these shows or training athletes.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It's the circus, right? It's crazy. It's you know, it's a circus world. It's amazing. You know, every day at work, it was funny because every day at work, I just look over and just see someone doing something just mind blowing, incredible, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not normal to be doing something like that. And it's just like, that's a daily thing, you know. And it was interesting to me because, like, as a gymnast, I grew up thinking, you know, gymnasts are good at handstands, you know, like, yeah, you know, I'm a gymnast, I can do handstands everywhere, you know. But it was when I got into the circus world, I realized that, like, gymnasts are not good at handstands really compared to, you know, these circus artists. And you know, there's people that they grow up going to circus arts schools, like since an early age, and they learn all these circus disciplines, and you know, their families have previous generations in circus, and they just kind of grow up in the circus world. And then there's that side, and then there's you know, retired athletes, acrobat athletes, like trampolinists, or You know, depending on what the show is, there's all these high-level retired athletes that use Cirque as sort of like a good transition from competition to performing, right? It's a good way that they can still keep their skills and also, you know, continue to work and do something that they love. But it's also, it's very different as well, you know? The preparation is very different. When you're competing in sport, you know, you're training and you're trying to peak at a certain level. You know, you're training for a competition or for a game or you know what I mean? So, but when you're an artist in Cirque, you know, your shows or your competition is every night, you know, sometimes 2 shows a night, you know, so the training is very different. Myself as a coach, one of the things that was kind of my role and responsibility was to kind of create these training plans for the artists that will help them sustain kind of like a workload so that they're not getting overworked, so that they're making sure that they're getting the proper recovery, so that they are just basically being able to sustain the work, but also continually to raise the level as well. Because it's not just, oh, we're here, we made it, let's just keep it like how it is. You know, we're constantly trying to push the limits as well, right?
Now, obviously, a lot of the entertainment comes from these incredible feats that are just not every individual or person like can even picture themselves doing some of this stuff. Like, how common are injuries and that kind of stuff, especially like during training?
Yeah, you know, it's a good question. A lot of these artists are, you know, they call them artists, but a lot of them are former athletes. You know, a lot of them have gone through years and years of competing in sport. And so for the majority, a lot of them really have learned, in that case, like in this situation, have learned to take care of their body, listen to their body, you know, how to deal with injuries. So I would say that, I mean, there aren't typically like a lot of injuries due to the fact that like a lot of the artists like really understand, you know, their body. And also we have to think like they're doing this now for a job. So if they can't perform, they can't get paid. You know, it's not like, you know, so it's like they have to be very careful about, you know, what they do. So they're very cautious. And in Cirque, we have, you know, the best of everyone trying to help these artists, you know, whether it's in nutrition or at any level, you know, there are professionals that are there to kind of assist these artists. And so, you know, there's injuries, of course, like anything, but I wouldn't really say that I noticed that it's like high level
Super common,
injuries, you know? Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that you bring up, you know, especially at this level as a professional athlete or artist or gymnast, like even just personally, like I know how my body is supposed to feel, whether I feed it with this certain food, or if I know I have a certain window before a performance or a game that I need to eat 4 hours before to feel like I'm not going to throw up, or especially now that I'm a finished, like I'm a college graduate, I spend a lot of time in the weight room. And you know, over time, as you get more experience, you kind of know what works for you. I kind of want to, you know, raise that question to you. And you know, as a former athlete or gymnast at obviously one of the highest levels in the world, how important is it when it, like, you know, when it comes to nutrition and training for a gymnast? Like, what are some personal things that you can share that you've learned over your years?
So again, it is vital in the success of an athlete to understand all of that, everything that you described, understand their own system, their own body, how everything works, because there's going to be many times when, you know, there's pressure, there's you know, there's times where artists sometimes are in, you know, a state where they feel like they have to overtrain sometimes to get to a certain level or whatever. So it's crucial that you know, the athletes understand all of this, because, you know, I always, there's one thing that I heard one time, which is like, there's no such thing as overtraining. There's only such thing as under recovering, you know? So it's like, as you know, it has to match up, right? So with myself, Tristan, I kind of have a little bit of a remarkable, unrealistic history where I had 0 injuries in my sport myself. And that's unheard of for someone who did gymnastics at that high level for so many years. I didn't have any serious injuries. You know, all my teammates, you know, they have the shoulders, the knee, you know, the ACL tears, the Achilles tears, the shoulder surgeries and everything, you know. And for some reason or whatever, I didn't have any injuries. And it's absolutely, it's not comprehensible for anyone who knows the sport of gymnastics and knows, you know, the level that it takes. It's just like, you know, that's really unheard of. And so,
but I just want to add on that, like, is that, like, do you owe that to your recovery and the way you prepare in that, or is that just flip of the coin and I'm blessed?
So, I mean, yes, I feel very blessed for sure, 100%. But I did feel, Tristan, that I was always very cautious. I mean, when I was younger, I was, you know, flipping and throwing things, you know, just not caring in the world. But as I got older, I realized that what I was doing was, you know, very dangerous, you know, like I'm on handstand on the rings, about to swing down, do 2 flips in the air with 2 twists, you know, and then land on my feet. So like, I'm just like, that's pretty crazy stuff. Like I could really hurt myself. So as I got older, I started to really kind of think about what I was doing actually, and kind of that led me to be, you know, very careful and cautious about what I was doing. But also, like, and smart too, you know, and I was very blessed also and lucky to have really great coaches. You know, David Kikuchi, who is a 2-time former Olympian and a Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Famer, and his father, Tak Kikuchi, who's like a legend in the sport of gymnastics here in Canada, and is also an Olympic coach. And so I was really blessed to have really good coaches that kind of really guided me. But I definitely was very kind of cautious, and you know, recovery was huge for me because I was an older. I did gymnastics competitively at that high level until I was 32 years old, and so that's also something that, you know, it's not very common to have gymnasts that old. So yeah, recovery, you know, things like when I was done training, just like a simple rollout, you know, of like the tight spots, icing after training, like getting good nutrition, you know, like filling your body up. So like it came down to really like everything, you know, in its individual piece coming together to help me. And then another thing that was extremely helpful for me, I mean, that this is just my story, but I started doing hot yoga. In 2012, I believe, or 13, I started doing hot yoga at Shanti Hot Yoga here in Dartmouth. And honestly, for the last few years of my career, I believe that that doing hot yoga kind of preserved my body, and it allowed me to continue training at that high level without the serious injuries, because I feel like it prevented injuries. It made my body like just that much more prepared, you know. It was great, and it also helped my mind too.
Oh my gosh, I've been to hot yoga a handful of times, and for one, if anyone hasn't done yoga before, like, you picture this mindful and peaceful activity, and, you know, you're doing all these stretches, but yoga is incredibly difficult. Like, I would look at myself and say, oh, I'm an in shape,
Yeah.
strong collegiate athlete, and then you go ahead and do yoga, and you're here I am shaking for 40
Yeah.
minutes. It's
Exactly.
incredible.
Yeah.
But just on the the note of stretching, I don't know if you know David Goggins, who is a former Navy SEAL. He's a huge his story is incredible. He wrote a book about he's just a madman when it comes to fitness and
Okay.
working hard and running 100-mile races all the time. But one of the
Wow.
things that he says is that stretching changed his life.
Okay.
Now he takes everything to the extreme, but he says that he stretches for a minimum of 2 hours every night, which is
Wow.
outrageous. But one of the biggest benefits that he says is that not only do you feel looser and more recovered, but the blood flow actually improves in your body, and it helps with injuries and
Recovery
healing and
and everything.
nutrients and oxygen and just overall performance. Unfortunately, I would love to sit here and say I'm an avid stretcher. It's one of my weak spots in my day-to-day routine. But yeah, like as a gymnast, how often would you stretch during your time, or pre or post, or even currently today?
Oh, stretching is I mean, constantly. Like I'm training, like say I have a 5-hour training period. Okay. During that 5 hours, I'm constantly stretching. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'll start off with a kind of a stretch at the beginning just to make sure everything's good. But as I'm training and as the training goes on, like I will continue to stretch. Stretching and flexibility for gymnastics is completely essential. Like you're putting your body on such stress, in different positions, different movements, that the more flexible you are, the less stress that actually is going
That's right.
on in your body, obviously. So it's like, you land short on a landing, you do a double flip in the air, you land on the floor. If you're landing a little bit short, and your ankle, if it's not flexible, that's where you have ankle,
Sure.
you break your ankle or something. But if you have flexible ankles, boom, you're going to take that impact and completely avoid injury. So it's huge in gymnastics, and I wish it was kind of more widely used in more sports, because I think we
Hmm.
could definitely prevent way more injuries.
I agree.
You know?
And I think stretching is one of those things that people just, like, you literally have to make the time for it, because if it's very easy to finish your workout or finish practice, and I just worked out for 2 hours and I'm tired. Like, I don't want to spend an extra 20 to 30 minutes stretching. But the upside of doing that is incredible. Hugh, I want to kind of rewind and dive into your whole origin story, let's call it.
Yeah, sure.
Like, how did you get involved with gymnastics? How did you decide it was something you wanted to do? Like tell us your background.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of a fun story. I mean, I grew up in Lower Sackville there. We had just moved from Ontario. So I was about 3.5, 4 years old, and close to where we lived there was the Sackville. There's like the Sackville Mall there, and there was a gymnastics club there. It was called Tyso Gymnastics, and it was still in the mall. It was still like, it just kind of was starting out, But my mom wanted to put me in because I would just be like jumping on her bed doing flips. Like I have videos of me like when I'm literally like 3.5 years old doing full
Oh
flips
my
on her
God.
bed, like all day long, climbing stuff, climbing on top of the fridge,
Sure.
jumping down the stairs, just being nuts all around the house. And she's like, okay, this kid's going into gymnastics because I don't want to
Right.
buy like, a new mattress every 3 months or something. But my dad is from Glace Bay.
Yeah.
So he grew up, you go to school, you come home, you put the hockey gear on, and you
That's
spend,
right.
10 o'clock at night playing hockey on the pond or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, my son's not doing gymnastics. Like, he's going to do hockey. Like, gymnastics is for girls, right? Back in the 80s, right? Like,
Right.
you know, gymnastics, you know, wasn't really.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. So he's like, he's doing hockey. So I did hockey, and, you know, I'm smaller, right? So like all the equipment looked, you know, super big on me and stuff. And I played hockey for a few seasons there in Sackville. And I mean, it was fine. I didn't say I didn't like hockey. It just wasn't really for me, you know, it wasn't my thing, right? I didn't like the cold, I didn't like the tight
For sure.
skates and stuff, right? But it was good to try it, you know, but then eventually, the gymnastics, I really started to enjoy it. And I was like, geez, I'm actually kind of learning cool things here, like, you know, flips and walking on my hands and, you know, stuff that none of my friends at school could do. This is kind of cool, you know? So at first I was kind of liking that, you know, just being able to do stuff that was cool and stuff. And then I got a call from one of the coaches there, and he said that he's starting like a little boys group, you know, that would go to compete. So then I got onto that group, and then one day a week turned into like 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And then before you know it, I was like 12 years old and going and practicing like 4 or 5 days a week, you know, and it had become just a big part of I guess my life, you know, at a young age. And then so at that time I had moved clubs, and I started training at the Alta Gymnastics Club. Then and I kind of switched coaches, and that's when and so I've been at that club, the Alta Gymnastics Club, which is known now as one of the best clubs in the country for gymnastics. And we've had a lot of success come out of that club. Ellie Black, I don't know, I'm sure you know the name Ellie Black. She trains at Alta Gymnastics Club. She's two-time Olympian.
Okay.
But yeah, so I started there, and then, you know, I made my first national championships, you know, when I was like 12 years old, and, you know, competing, you know, at the nationals as a 12-year-old, and just kind of seeing how cool it all was, and the traveling, and, you know, all this stuff. I was just like, okay, I like this. I want to continue this. I want to make some serious goals. And one day I want to be like on the Canadian National Team and just take this. Training, and then when I was like 15, I made it onto like the 14 or 15. I made it onto like the Canadian National Team, like the age group kind of division, you know, for the first time, and started to travel
Hugh,
like around the world, you know.
Hugh, sorry to interrupt here. I think your screen's kind of gone frozen on me. You're back now. I think we just went through a little bug. But no, you're chopping up a little bit. I think I can still hear you.
You good?
Slow. Yeah, no, there's no picture.
Oh shoot, just stuck here. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, we were rolling there for a second.
Shoot. Let's see here. There, you got it or no?
Not yet. It says it's just showing your name. Maybe if you close the app, or maybe turned off your Wi-Fi and turned it back on.
Yeah, let me try something.
We'll get him back here.
Good or no?
Slowly, yeah, you're back. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with this for a little while.
Okay. Now I can't see you, but
oh no.
As long as you can. Yeah, are you there? Let's see.
Yeah, I'm here. Maybe I'll throw my my Wi-Fi off and turn it back on.
Your mic is unmuted. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're back.
Okay.
I'm not
we're
worried.
good?
I'm not worried about all of this because I know that the magic of editing will be on our side. But
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
I wanted to, you started out in hockey and then you switch over to gymnastics. Like, did you ever experience any, like, not backlash, I guess is the wrong word, but like, did any of your hockey friends or teammates look at you differently, or kids at school? Like, do you have any experience with that transition?
Well, so I did gymnastics. I started gymnastics like when I was like 4, and then
Right.
shortly after that, I did some hockey. But while I was doing hockey, I still.
Shoot.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey, Hugh.
Oh, geez, yeah. I don't know what's going on here, but can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Your picture's not all there, but that's, as long as we can hear you, we can hear the good old stories. Yeah,
Okay.
actually, we'll slowly get there.
Yeah.
We'll run with this.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what it is.
No, hey,
But
no problem.
But there was one season where I actually took off of gymnastics, and I didn't do gymnastics because I was doing hockey. And yeah, I remember I wasn't going, and I mean nothing really serious, but like yeah, I was just out of the gym for
Mm-hmm.
that whole season. But I mean, probably the biggest was just like, I mean, I felt a little bit when I went back to gym, I was a little bit, out of gymnastics shape, just because it's totally different. But no, like not really. It's just back then, yeah, gymnastics wasn't really like, there wasn't a lot of boys doing gymnastics,
That's right. That's right.
And so yeah, a lot of people didn't really like understand like what type of training I did, like that I actually competed, and like how hard it was, and I think
Mm-hmm.
nowadays people can kind of look at a sport like gymnastics.
Lost you again. Hey.
Hey, you know what? I think I know what the problem is. Just give me
Okay.
1 second here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think I know what the problem is. Just give me 1 sec. All right, hello.
Hey, I can hear you.
Hey. Yeah, I think. Can you see me or no?
Oh yeah, you're back. Still a little choppy, but yeah.
Is it okay?
But maybe we'll give it a second to see if whatever you did there fixed. Yeah, it's actually a lot better.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, sorry about that.
No problem, Jay.
So,
yeah, Hugh. I guess I didn't even ask you what kind of events you did as a gymnast.
yeah, so I mean, I started off there, and then so when I was 15, I kind of made like the national team for that level,
Right.
And started to travel around the world. I remember like we went to Germany one year, to train with the German team and different teams from different countries, and for a 15-year-old to like go, to Europe, and train with some of the best younger gymnasts. My coach is from Japan, so we started going to Japan every year. Like, it was super, super cool. And I was just like, this is awesome, and so those kind of things motivated me, right, to keep going, to keep working. And because I'm just like, okay, I want to take this to the next level.
Exactly.
But and then that's what I did, and until I was about 19. And that's when I kind of decided to, I kind of decided to take a break from the sport at age 19, and I wanted to pursue something else that I had wanting to do. And that was, so I took a 2-year break from the sport, and I did like a volunteer mission trip for my church.
Nice.
And that was in Mexico. So
Mm.
but the thing was, everyone told me, like my coaches and everyone's like, listen, if you do this, if you go away for 2 years and, you know, you don't have a chance to come back
That's right.
and to be on the national team and to go to the Olympics or to do like, there's no chance. Like, this sport is too tough. It's too hard. You can't take 2 years off
And
and
still
expect to
maintain.
come
Yeah,
back, you know?
that's right.
But I thought differently, you know. I always felt like, you know, there's no limitations. There's only there's the only limitations that there are the ones that you put on yourself, you know. And so I didn't believe that at all. And I'm like, well, you know, all right, we'll see. So I did my 2-year. I lived in Mexico. It was the best time of my life, you know, such a rewarding thing to do, you know, giving, like, helping and so many
That's right.
people. But I came back and I was about 200 pounds, Tristan. And I'm a short guy. And so 200 pounds at my heaviest almost, you know. I came back and I went right to my coach, right to my gym there at Untitled Gymnastics. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get back in this. Like, you know, like, I'm ready to get back on the national team. Like, let's do this. And my coach is just like, like, if you want to come back and just have some fun in the gym, you know, that's fine. But like, as far as getting on the national team, like, you know, you're dreaming sort of thing. I'm like, okay,
Right.
thank you for telling me that. That's all the motivation that I needed, you know? And
Sure.
in a way, like, my coach did know me and knew what kind of drive me and what pushed me. So in a way, I feel like even though he said that, it was kind of his way of motivating me, you know?
That's right.
Because he knew me since, you know, since I was 12 years old and stuff, right? So he had been my coach. So I started running to gym every single day, and I was living by Lake Banook at the time, just up on Celtic Drive.
Yeah.
And I started running to the gym, which was in Halifax, by Halifax Shopping Center.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was about 12 kilometers or something. So I would run the 12 kilometers. The first time it took me like almost 2 hours, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then train for 4 or 5 hours. And then I made sure to tell, like, all the parents, and I told everybody, like, listen, like, don't give me a ride. Don't even offer it to me. Like, I'm running home,
Oh
you
my
know?
God.
And so for 10 months in the winter as well, I ran to gym, trained for about 4 hours, and ran home. And that was my, you know, that was what I did. And I remember some days running back home on the McDonald Bridge there. And like, the wind was just blowing. It was raining. Like, I was freezing cold, but I couldn't stop, because if I stopped, I'd get even more cold,
Sure.
you know? But just like the 10 months passed, I made it to the nationals, and I made it back onto the national team after all that work. And everybody was just like blown away. Like, wow, like this, like, nobody thought this was going to happen at all, you know?
Well, for
And
sure. But do you think that's a testament to your character? Because that clearly takes a ton of dedication and drive to run a half marathon every day, and then train, like, on top of that, train for 4 to 5 hours. Like you have to be so invested in reaching this goal, because a lot of people would just say, oh darn, like, I'm especially after being two years out of the sport, you put on all this weight, you come back and you just like, okay, my time has passed, I'm going to move on. But you said, no, I'm going to go for this. Is that something that's always been ingrained in you?
you know, I wouldn't say that it has always been ingrained in me. I would say that at that moment in my life, I knew without a doubt that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get back onto the national team. I wanted to accomplish these goals, you know. And so I wanted to make, you know, the world championship team that was coming up, and continue and try to help Canada qualify for the Olympics. And so at that moment in my life, like, I knew exactly what I wanted. I didn't care about anything else. You know, I didn't even have, you know, want to buy a car or anything. I just, you know, I was just boom focused, and that was my plan, that was my goal, and I was going to do it, you know. And so I always, my coach always refers back to that time. Anytime that he felt like I wasn't working hard enough or pushing myself, he would always say, like, he's like, I remember like when you really wanted it, you know what I mean? And he's right, you know, that was a time in my life where I was clear on exactly what I
Sure.
wanted, and nothing was going to get into the way. And yeah, it was I was really grateful. And not only that, but I felt like those 2 years, it kind of preserved my body in a way, you know, where
Right.
a lot of athletes, you know, 19, 20, 21, like at that time, like they're pushing themselves super hard, which could lead to injuries. And I was just taking a break, you know, I was giving my body a rest, which I feel allowed me to continue on 10 years after that with a successful
Right.
career, you know?
And obviously gymnastics has played, like, for you to even reach the level that you did, you obviously have to be so invested. And clearly it's something that was within you when you were 3 years old, that knew that you wanted to do something involving your body. It always fascinates me because even now, like, you're still involved with the sport now that you're a coach, and you're working with, you know, even though the Cirque Du Soleil isn't the same as gymnastics, you know, there's obviously similarities there. But how was that transition from going from an athlete to being like you pushing and competing yourself on a day to day and literally competing versus now, like it's funny, I had an episode with one of the coaches for Saint FX, a basketball coach,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
he brought up the fact that, you know, when he first started coaching, you know, he played pro basketball and then he started coaching, and there would be times when he would want to jump in to show the players himself what they should be doing, and how they should be doing the moves, and he literally wanted to participate in the practice.
Yeah.
You know, but now that he's gaining more experience as a coach, he says, you know, like, I don't need that. I watch some of my friends who still continue to play professional basketball, and I just don't feel that need to participate in the sport as a player anymore. I want to teach, and I want to help learn, and I want to help grow. What's your experience been like that, from going from an athlete to now a coach?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people think like, oh yeah, like you coach because you can just show everyone, you know, how to do it or something, right? I'm like, no, like I'm done. You know, like my body, my mind is not there right now. I'm a coaching zone, you know, mode, right? It's not like you can just get up and start showing all this stuff, you know,
Right.
especially a sport like gymnastics where you're, you know, it's very demanding. So yeah, the transition was very tough. It's tough to go from an athlete to the outside world. It really is. When your whole focus every single day is, you know, your sport, how you're going to train, how you're going to recover, like everything involved in your sport, which at that level it is. Like everything you do is for your performance, you know? And so to go from that to basically have nothing, like no goals, no competition,
That's right.
nothing to train for, it's a tough transition. And it was easy for me. I went through a time where I contemplated many different things of what I wanted to do. Like, okay, you know, do I want to coach? Do I want to own my own gymnastics club, which I did for a couple of years in Windsor, Nova Scotia, actually.
Nice.
Do I want to take a job coaching overseas? And so it was a tough transition, and it wasn't easy for sure. And I know a lot of athletes struggle as well. You know, your whole life it goes from having like, you know, daily goals and big goals to like all of a sudden like, you know, now what, right? But you do take something with you, and that's just your nature as an athlete. And so I eventually found that, like, you know, that competitiveness in me, that nature, that those lessons that I learned kind of rolled over into everything else that I was doing, you know, into coaching, into my own personal fitness. You know, if I wanted to start running again, you know, I'm going to try to, you know, get faster and faster and faster, you know? And so those things kind of rolled over, and in my daily life, but yeah, I don't really kind of go and show too much, you know? I remember there was one time at Cirque. So we're creating this new show, and there's an act in the show using kind of like some gymnastics type equipment, right? And so, you know, it was fun to watch the guys, you know, training, and it kind of motivated me a little bit to get up on the equipment and do a little bit, you know. And so one day I'm like, guys, like this is what I want you to try. Like, this is what I want somebody to try, right? I was trying to get them to try something.
Yeah.
And I get up there and I completely, like, my brain was knowing what to do, but my body was just
Sure.
you know
So
what I mean? There
unfamiliar.
was like
Yeah.
a disconnect, right?
Yeah.
And so I wiped out and like came up and landed on my neck and just like rolled over, and I was just like, heard all these cracks, and I was just like, okay, that was not good, you know. And all the artists just laughing like, all right, coach, good, yeah,
That's
it,
right.
that's what you
That's
want us
right.
to do, you know. And I was just like, that's why I'm coaching now. I am
It's like
not
a humbling
you know.
experience. A humbling experience.
Yeah, exactly, you know. And you don't need to show people, you know, how to do, you know, coaching, you know, is all about motivating people to do stuff, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of why I love coaching, is because I feel like I'm passionate about helping people, about motivating people to bring out their best, you know. And so whatever it is, you know, because I went from gymnastics to circus, or anything, I feel like I could coach really anything, because even without knowing about it, you know what I mean? Because coaching is not all like knowing the sport. It's knowing how to motivate people. It's knowing what drives people, what push, you know what I mean? And knowing how to get the best from that individual. So it's a lot more psychological than people think. That it's not just knowing the sport, you know what I mean?
No question. I think back to my favorite coaches in the ones that I felt helped me progress the most as a player
Yeah.
were not only the ones that could motivate me, but I think the ones that, you know, really took the time to establish a personal connection with me,
Mm-hmm.
and my teammates. I mean, the ones that would take us out for dinner or have us over to their house for, you know, to watch a basketball game or do team activities and talk about things that are outside of the sport. I think it's important to have that bond uh, with your coach, because you're literally, like you said, you're the as an athlete, you're playing for the coach, and you want to help them succeed. Just like it's a reciprocal relationship,
Yeah.
no question. Hugh,
Yeah.
just kind of wrapping up here, I wanted to touch on the fact that you mentioned that you're now a father. How has that influenced your life from being a gymnast, and specifically, I know a lot of athletes that have kids or think about the future of having kids. I know basketball players specifically, they're like, oh, my son or my daughter, oh, they're going to play basketball no matter what. Like, even your experience with
Yeah.
your dad, he said, oh no, my son's playing hockey. Is that something that you want for your kids to get into gymnastics? Are they involved?
Yeah, it's good, great question. So, my son, I have a son, Wilder legend, and he's almost 4, and he's been doing gymnastics since he was since he was under a year old, really.
Wow.
Where I was coaching in Salt Lake, he had his classes, he was just always in the gym, he was just like a little gym baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, people always ask me that question, and as much as I would love my kids to do gymnastics competitively, I do believe that gymnastics is something that all kids, if possible, should start out doing, like at early ages, like, you know, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because it's a developmental sport. You know, gymnastics, you develop so many important skills that can carry over to other sports. You know, we have, you know, so I do think that I want my kids to at least do gymnastics up until, you know, however long they want, you know. And if they come and after they're like, yeah, I don't really want to do gymnastics, or I want to try this or whatever, I'm definitely, I want my kids to just have something. Sports is, you know, regardless of what it is, it can teach you so much, and there's so many lessons to be learned with sport. And so I'll be happy just having them in something that they love to do. But I will definitely make sure that they are involved with, you know, with something, just because,
Of
you know,
course.
yeah, the lessons are just, you know, going from competing in sport, you know, working with teammates, working with a coach, learning how to fail, learning how to succeed, setting goals. The lessons are just so valuable that, you know, I've learned, and my kids, I definitely would love them to learn that too. So yeah, they're in gymnastics, and we'll see if they like it or
That's
not,
right.
you know.
If they can compete with their father one day, that would, you know, get onto his level. I
Yeah.
think it's amazing just hearing you, you know, talk about the things that people learn from sports. You're the first gymnast I've talked to, but
Okay.
in about 8 or 9 of these like face-to-face interviews that I've done, it's amazing. It you know, it's like I'm getting goosebumps right now, because it
Yeah.
it honestly doesn't matter about the sport that you play.
Hmm.
It's amazing to hear that, you know, all of the lessons and the values that we learn as athletes, regardless of the sport we play, there's a common bond. And you know, like everything you just said, it doesn't matter who I talk to, what kind of sport they play, people always refer back to how sport has helped their development, and continues to lead them in whatever they do today, whether it's
Hmm.
being a father, or, you know, as a student, or it's in your career or relationships. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing to hear that, you know,
Yeah.
you share
It's
that
character
similarities.
building, you know. It builds your character. It builds, you know, a big part of who you are, you know.
No, no doubt. Hugh, I don't want to take up any of your time. I'll leave the floor open to you if you have anything you wanted to share with the people listening or watching. But other than that, this has been incredible to get to know you a little bit better.
Well, thanks, Tristan. I mean, I'm a talker. I can definitely talk and talk and talk and go on, you know. I'm always happy to share my experiences and my story. I'm actually currently, with the COVID thing, I actually started writing a little book,
Okay.
which is just kind of, you know, it's just experiences, you know, things that I, you know, that I went through, that I learned. And, you know, one thing, it's just like, honestly, you know, I learned that one of the main things that I learned is just like, whatever you want to do, you know, you put the work in, and you consistent work over time, and you'll accomplish what you want, you know. And so I feel like so many youth and so many young people these days, like, it's just, it's hard to see them not have, you know, not have something, or not have goals, or not be
Mhm.
working or towards something, you know. And I really take any opportunity I can to get involved with programs. Like right now I'm involved with like Box Canada. It's a program through Reebok,
Okay.
where they do stuff in the schools. They bring in athletes, and they get kids active in the schools, you know. I've been involved with the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, going to schools, doing different things. I was the RBC Olympian, and you know, so I'm always trying to encourage youth, especially, to find something that they like, you know. And then once they find that something, like, make something out of it. Work
Mhm.
hard in it. Set goals, because you never know what will come from it. You know, if I had have just you know, taken gymnastics as a hobby or just, you know, not so serious, I wouldn't have had any of the experiences that I've had it,
That's right.
that I've competed for Team Canada all around the world. You know, I've competed at, you know, Olympic test events and helped Canada in their Olympic qualifying, quest. You know, I've kept world championships, Pan American Games, medalists. You know, like World Cups. I just met so many people, had so many amazing experiences that I wouldn't have had if I just had taken sport or anything just sort of lightly. You know, but I worked hard at it, and I had goals, and I want, you know, everyone to kind of, I encourage everyone to do that, because the experiences you can have are just amazing, you know,
Yeah,
incredible. And so,
I couldn't agree more. And in growing up, I was always told that sport is a vehicle,
mhm.
and you should use it that way. You know, you shouldn't. You know, a lot of times you can go out there and search and find a lot of stories that where people almost let the sport use them, and they don't. You know, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to play a sport your entire life. There will come a day where you have to finish it, and
Yeah.
that's where it's important to take the lessons and values learned. My grandfather always told me, when I was in high school, he said, remember these moments. If you go to a tournament, you know, make sure you grab that pamphlet, and if you know there's the
Mhm.
roster, and like grab it, because like this time is going to fly by, and you're going to
Yeah.
want to hold on to those memories. I, I think just listening to you and how you continue to use sport and get others involved in sport, it's just really nice to hear that. And I just, you know, just talking to you in the short amount of time that we have, I can tell that you're genuinely passionate about that and getting others involved. So I can't wait to continue to
Thank
follow
you,
you
Kristen.
and see what you do. You know, hearing that you're writing a book, like I'm gonna for sure keep my eye out for that.
Yeah.
I would love to
Thank you.
love to see that when it's finished.
Yeah, thank you, Tristan. I mean, I'm here in Nova Scotia for now. Like I said, I don't know what's happening, you know, with Cirque and stuff.
That's right.
I'm here now. So yeah, so any opportunity I can to you know to get out there and help the youth and just, you know, share
That's
experiences,
right.
I'll do that. So thank you very
It's
much for
important.
having me.
It's
Yeah, it
important. I think
definitely
it's
is.
important.
You know, it
So yeah,
definitely is.
Hugh, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Um, and yeah, we'll be in touch. I'll let you know when all this comes out. It should be probably 2 to 3 days. I'll chop it up and send you copies and let you know. You know, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. But yeah, this was incredible. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. I will say one last thing, just on the dad note, though.
Please.
Um, you know, out of anything that I've done so far, you know, in sport, in my life or whatever, you know, like anything, any events or whatever, you know, all of that doesn't compare to being a dad. Honestly, like being a dad is the best thing that I've ever done, and it's like my greatest accomplishment. You know, all sports and everything, that was amazing, but like this, being a dad is honestly like the greatest accomplishment so far in my life, just personally. And it's just now I want to take everything that I've learned, you know, from sport and everything, and just pass that along to my kids and see what they can do, you know.
Of course. And I think, you know, obviously just looking at your resume and what everything that you've accomplished, the fact that you say that speaks volume in and of itself. And obviously I'm not there in that stage of my life yet, but I know that when that day comes, I'll definitely try to do the same. And I'll one day hope to experience that too.
Yeah,
That's
right on.
incredible. All right,
Yeah,
dude. Thank
I hope
thank you
you
so
will.
much. I'm glad we got this done. We'll be in touch.
Okay, Tristan, thanks. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye, buddy. My name is Hugh Smith. You were just watching Undress the Jersey.